Welcome back, y'all. Ryan Hall here with the weather forecast. Canada has been popping off with tornadoes. A plethora of storms have been rotating in Alberta and Saskatchewan over the past few days. In fact, on Wednesday, a large tornado flattened homes near the town of Sundre, north of Calgary. And on Friday, 4 different tornadoes touched down in the province of Saskatchewan, with 3 of those being near the town of Paignton. And luckily, nobody in any of these towns was severely hurt. But listen here, the same system that's been sparking these tornadoes in Canada is now moving down into our neck of the woods in the northern portion of the U.S., so we got to talk about that right now. All right, so I don't think we're going to see a repeat of what we saw in Canada today up here in North Dakota and Minnesota, but we do have a slight risk of severe weather from the Storm Prediction Center. You can see everybody here in the yellow is under that, from Fargo down to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and even Duluth, and we might not see a bunch of tornadoes, but conditions are definitely favorable for some tornadoes, especially in Minnesota. As you can see, we have that 5% outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. This comes all the way down into the Minneapolis, St. Paul region, and then of course up into Duluth, Grand Rapids, all the way up to the Canadian border. Let's take a look at the simulated radar, where the time and date and eastern's always displayed above my head. As you can see, we've got a little bit of a warm sector promoting some showers and thunderstorms from around Winnipeg all the way down into northern portions of Minnesota. Underneath this is a big area of warm and unstable air, which will spark more storms right here in a minute. Let's pull this forward, and as you can see, there they go. Big storms, potentially supercells, popping up around Fargo and then moving east towards Park Rapids and Grand Rapids by the 5 p.m. time frame. Now, as we go into 6, 7, 8 p.m. all the way into 9 p.m., this stuff really turns into a big mess. It's mostly just a bunch of rain once it moves into the UP of Michigan. But still, there's a little bit of convection trying to pop up down here around Minneapolis, which might give us one last chance of an isolated supercell producing a tornado. But remember, these storms for the most part are going to be riding down our summertime slip and slide. And my rule of thumb is, when it comes to tornadoes, never trust a southeast moving storm. There's just a lot of things the supercell has to overcome when the overall storm motion is to the south and east. But despite that, these storms will be discrete in nature, and they are going to be interacting with a little bit of an increased lower level jet stream here. We're looking at the 850 millibar winds, and we do have the ability for cyclonic rotation to happen with some of these storms, as the surface winds are backed and they are going to be interacting with this lower level jet stream, especially the later into the evening that we go. 8, 9, 10 p.m. That might be the prime time for some isolated tornadoes here. They're going to be isolated, okay? Don't be scared. Be prepared. Just have a way of getting warnings and know what you're going to do if that warning does come through. Now, zooming out a little bit and looking at the 500 millibar winds, we've been talking a lot about our summertime slip and slide. It sounds like fun, but it actually is going to bring more big storms down further to the south and east. You can see our pattern develop here as we push this further into the future, all the way out there to Tuesday. Here's the shape of our slide, okay? So Canada's main export now is going to be thunderstorms as they form on the top side of this ridge and slide down into the U.S. That's why we have a slight risk of severe weather tomorrow in Illinois, and a slight risk of severe weather on the day 3 outlook over here on the East Coast. A day 3 slight risk of severe weather in the Northeast in July is actually kind of rare. So it does look like we might see some big time thunder boomers on Tuesday from just east of Pittsburgh all the way up through Albany. And we can take a closer look at that on the Euro model, where we can really start to see the overall dynamics here. Big high pressure in the Four Corners region supporting that big summertime slip and slide here. Once again, watch how everything just slides down to the south and east. And then specifically on Tuesday, we're going to have a little bit of a low pressure system here trailing down a little bit of a cold front and allowing for storms to spark up. We think that the main threats here are going to be damaging wind, maybe some hail, and also maybe an isolated tornado or two. It doesn't look like a tornado outbreak. So once again, take note of the high pressure over here. Take note of the dip on the East Coast. This is going to continue to be the pattern for a while. And what we're going to see is continued showers and thunderstorms from Florida all the way up into the deep south. And just watch that ridge build up on the west, man. I'm telling you, it is getting hot over here. I am getting so hot. I'm gonna smash that like button. The heat remains on as we go all the way through Tuesday. As you can see, we're 90 to 100 degrees in a lot of Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana, especially down here in southern Nevada, Arizona, and California. We are approaching 110 degrees, and that's not even including the heat index. And as that ridge builds in the west, we're gonna see another sort of heat wave impact a lot of the central U.S. We're gonna see those soaring high temperatures make it all the way back up into the central U.S. And once again, not seeing a lot of relief over here in California and Nevada. This means until we get a significant influx of moisture with our monsoon, the drought is going to continue to persist and get worse over here on the West Coast. And guys, speaking of the drought on the West Coast, we have to talk about the Lake Mead situation. Lake Mead has been dropping for a while, especially since the 80s, but now it's getting to dangerously low levels. In fact, we're only 150 feet away from Deadpool, meaning that the lake is essentially useless at this point, and millions of people in California, Nevada, Arizona, even in Mexico, countless people depend on this lake for electricity and drinking water. The water has dropped so much that we are now starting to see pictures and videos of boats that used to be sunken under 100 feet of water. Now they're just kind of just sitting there, and the water is dropping faster than ever before, and obviously the drought is not helping that. Here's a look at the drought map for Nevada. As you can see, we are in a significant drought down here, and it doesn't look like it's going to be letting up anytime soon. If we do look at the CPC precipitation outlook for the next 10 days or so, it does look like there's going to be some slightly above average precipitation down here, but guys, remember, this isn't necessarily a win. It's only slightly above average, and in situations like this, a lot of times the storms are isolated in nature, and we can even sometimes get dry thunderstorms, which in combination with the drought, the extreme heat, and the overall dry conditions could lead to fires. Here's a look at the fire weather outlook as we go into August, and as you can see, it's not looking good all the way over into California and as far north as Alaska, actually. And there's also a big fire going on in Utah right now, which we have some pictures and videos of. And this one is expected to get larger in and around the Salt Lake City area. So basically what I'm saying, guys, is we have a very severe situation unfolding on the West Coast with the ongoing drought and the potentially growing fire weather situation. So we're going to be keeping a very close eye on that. And once again, looking at the Euro model here, I'm not seeing a lot of relief as far as precipitation goes, unless we do get this little bit of a tropical system forming down here near Texas and then kind of flinging that moisture up towards the Four Corners region. And speaking of our little tropical system down here, you know we've got to give you a full tropical update. All right, the National Hurricane Center actually has something for us to look at down here in the Gulf of Mexico, where we have a 20% chance of development over the next 5 days. And it's going to occur as it drifts just offshore of the northern Gulf of Mexico coastline through the middle and latter part of this week. This is basically what we were looking at on the Euro model there. We think that there is a very low chance of an actual cyclone developing here and then going towards the Houston area. This would bring some much welcomed rain to a lot of Texas, but as of right now, it's only a 20% chance of development. And also down here in the Eastern Pacific, we've got a new storm. We've been coming down here and visiting Bonnie, but Bonnie's gone, and she's given birth to Tropical Storm Darby down here in the Eastern Pacific Ocean now with 60-mile-an-hour winds and 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Darby is expected to become a Category 1 hurricane with potentially 115-mile-an-hour wind gusts by Tuesday around 8 a.m. Eastern. So this is another storm that we've got out here in the Eastern Pacific Ocean that's really not going to affect anyone, but I thought you guys might be interested because the Pacific hurricane season so far has been a lot more active than the Atlantic hurricane season, and that technically shouldn't be the case. Here's a look at the Pacific Ocean basin here, and you can see portions of California and Mexico on the northeastern side of the screen there just for reference. This is Hawaii, and this is the equatorial region, and the map that we're looking at is temperature anomalies, so how far above or below average are the temperatures of the ocean. And as you can see, the vast majority of the equatorial Pacific Ocean is below average. In fact, it's quite a bit below average the closer to Australia you get, and this means we are in La Niña. In fact, this is the third year in a row that we're going to have a La Niña hurricane season, which is actually really rare. We call it a triple dip La Niña. And if we skedaddle over to the Atlantic basin, you can see all of those cool temperatures down here and what's becoming a warmer than average main development region in the equatorial Atlantic basin. Additionally, we have some very warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico, and because the temperatures are so much cooler down here in the Pacific, what happens is we get a lot of sinking air, okay? We get a lot of decreased activity with the thunderstorm development in this region. We actually get decreased trade winds. So because of the lack of activity in the Pacific Ocean, it essentially leads to less activity in the Caribbean and surrounding development areas, and that means that any storm that forms should have the ability to grow upscale more so than if we had a bunch of storms and warm air in the Pacific Ocean. So this year could be another really intense hurricane season, but by this time last year, we had already had a bunch of activity. In May, we had Tropical Storm Anna. In June, we had Tropical Storm Bill. We had Tropical Storm Claudette, and we had Tropical Storm Danny. Not to mention, we had our first landfalling Category 1 hurricane, Hurricane Elsa, that formed on June 27th and lasted all the way through July 9th. So things aren't really happening like a traditional La Niña year, and let me show you why. Here's a look at the dust coming off of Africa, okay? This is what it looks like right now, and this is what it's going to continue to look like as we go out into the future. And as you can see, we have a lot of dust in our main development region. This can limit the opportunity for lift to happen and thunderstorms to occur. But this is getting ready to change. A lot of parameters are flipping over to where it's actually more favorable for thunderstorms to start forming over here, and we all know what's going to happen when that starts happening. Because of the decreased activity over here, because of the warm waters in this region, anything that forms in our main development region that is allowed to make it into the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico or even on the eastern side of the US, it is going to explode. So I expect as we go later on into July that we are going to see a bunch of storms start forming. One or two of them are probably going to get pretty intense, and then the outflow or the ripple effect from those storms might lead to another brief period of quieter activity. But I'm telling you, here in late July, early August, we really have to watch the main development region down here. Of course, you're going to want to stay tuned here to the Ryan Hall Y'all channel. We're going to have you covered. Our goal is to make sure that you're not scared and you are prepared, okay? So one of the best ways that you can stay prepared is by having a really good radar app, something that allows you to look at a lot of the stuff that I look at here on your own time. And that brings us to today's sponsor, Radar Omega, the best weather app, no cap. Radar Omega is a professional radar app that meteorologists use, storm chasers use, I use, and you can use on your phone, iOS or Android. And with a subscription, you can actually use it on your PC. It's what I use during live streams. This is the most powerful storm tracking app. Radar Omega provides you with high-quality NEXRAD radar data to keep you alert on rapidly changing weather conditions. Not only can you look at radar, but you get your warnings, your severe weather outlooks, and also all kinds of other data through this app. My favorite thing is you can look at satellite data in 3D, and in fact, you can look at model data, radar data, and all that in 3D, and like, how cool is that? I was a big fan of them long before they sponsored me, and I just want people to have this in their toolbox because I believe it's a life-saving product. So what are you waiting for? Hit those links down in the description for iOS or Android to download Radar Omega today. You will not regret it, I can promise you that. Now, let's get back into the video. All right, that's all I have for you today, guys. I really do think you're gonna like Radar Omega. It's not just an ad, okay? It's not just me shilling out any company that gives me money. Radar Omega is a life-saving tool, and I want every single one of my subscribers to have it, and I promise you, you will not regret it. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Super huge shout out to all of our members over here. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel. Guys, I got a new video on my Ryan Hall TV channel, which is my personal channel. It's the fireworks show. I finally uploaded it. $5,000 worth of fireworks going up in smoke. It's very fun to watch. There's a link in the description. Go check it out, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.